Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Yud Dalet Amud Beis, that's 14b of Maseches Taanis, and we are a little bit down the page already. We're already in the wide lines here. It's the second wide line. It begins with the word Zeh. Second wide line beginning with the word Zeh, and we're in the middle where it says Sholchu Le. Mar says Sholchu Le b'nei Ninveh l'Rebbe. The people of Ninveh, city that we maybe know from the book of Yonah, the people of Ninveh, the Jews of Ninveh in this case, sent a message to Rebbe, to Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. They had a question. Kigon Anan, people like us, a place like this, right? Ninveh was in Assyria, in Ashur, somewhere, I guess, in Iraq. So they said, Kigon Anan dafilu b'tkufas Tammuz b'leinan mitzvah. People like us who even during the Tkufas Tammuz, the Tammuz season, which means the summer, we need rain. As opposed to in Israel where there's a rainy season, it begins the winter. They actually, the way the cycle works is it's not supposed to rain in the summer. In the summer, that's when the wheat and the things are drying. But in other places, however, the agricultural cycle works, it rains and they need rain throughout the year, even in the summer. So their question was, people like us who need rain in the summer, Heichi Navid, what should we do with regards to requesting rain? So we typically say a special prayer for rain, right? We talked about it earlier in the Masechta. We say, V'sein tal u'matar livracha. God should give dew and rain for blessing. And when is that said? It's said during the rainy season, primarily corresponding to the rainy season in Israel. And slightly later, if you live outside of Israel, you start saying it. But it's all said only during the winter time, the rainy season. But they said we need rain in the summer. So if we want to say or need to say V'sein tal, even in the summer, or some sort of request for rain in the summer, how should we say it? Ki yechidim dominan o ki rabim dominan? Should we be like individuals, or should we be like rabim, like the public? What do they mean by that? So yechidim, individuals, when a person has a special prayer to insert into their Shema Esrei, into their davening, so they insert it in the middle of the blessing of Shomei Tefillah. That's a place where a person can make requests. So they were asking, we need rain. As a tzibur, as a congregation, we need rain, but it's just us. So do we treat ourselves like individuals or like a tzibur? If we're like individuals, then we'll just insert a special prayer for rain in the bracha of Shomei Tefillah. General blessing that God listens to our prayers. We'll insert it in there. But if we are like Rabbim, if we're like the public, we're like, just as the public says it throughout the rainy seasons in Israel, so maybe we should say it throughout our season, or at least when we need to say it, even in the summer, we should say it in Barech Aleinu, where we say V'sein tal u'matar. We should say V'sein tal u'matar even in the summer. That apparently was their question. Ki yechidim dominanu v'shomei tefillah. Are we like yechidim and we should say it in Shomei Tefillah? We should insert a prayer only into Shomei Tefillah because we're like yechidim, we're individuals. We're not, it's like adding in any other prayer. O ki rabim dominanu v'birkas hashanim. Or are we like a rabbim, a public? We're like the public, and just as we normally say it in birkas hashanim, which is the blessing of Barech Aleinu, God should bless us, bless our produce, and that's where we ask for rain in the rainy season, in the winter. So they said maybe we should say that there even in the summer. So Shalach Lahu, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi sent to them, Ki yechidim damisu u'v'shomei tefillah. His answer was, no, you're like individuals, and you should only say in Shomei Tefillah. It happens to be there's one community that needs the rain in the summer, so okay, but that's not going to raise you and change the whole status that you'll say it in the blessing of Barech Aleinu. Rather, it's like a personal need, you'll put it into Shomei Tefillah. That was Rebbe's answer. The Gemara asks a contradiction, says, Meisvei, we have a brisa. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, a Masai. He's talking about the series of fasts that we have when it doesn't rain. And he said, when is it that we follow this course of If it doesn't rain, so first 3 fasts, and if it still doesn't rain, another 3 fasts, and then 7. When do we follow that course? It says, Bisman she'ashanim kitiknan, v'Yisrael kshruyin al admasan. That's when the years are proper, and the Jews are on their land. Rashi explains, what does he mean by the years being proper? Rashi says that the harvest is at the normal time in Nisan, and the planting is at the normal time in Cheshvan, and that hasn't changed. It's following the normal cycle. There's no, serious climate change. So that's when you follow this course that the rabbi set out for when to fast and when not. But also Yisrael Shriyin Al Masan Sheminag Eretz Yisrael B'Kach, that the Jews are in Israel and things are in place. That's when you follow that course, and seemingly only in Israel. Aval Bisman Hazeh, but nowadays Hakol Lefi Hashanim, Hakol Lefi Hamakomos, Hakol Lefi Hazman. It's all based on the years, based on the place, based on the time. Some take that out because that seems just a repetition of years. But it's all based on the situation, when you should fast, how many, etc. Basically, the specific formula for fasting was very specific to Israel and when the cycle of the seasons is running normally. But if things are different and it's not Israel, it's not, then you do based on what your place is. So, now this is talking about the series of fasts, but the Gemara is taking from here and saying, and just like that's true in terms of the fasts, so that should be true for when you say V'sein Tal Matar. And even though in Israel they say V'sein Tal Matar during the rainy season, but in Nineveh, if they need to say it in the summer, then they should say it in the summer in Barech Aleinu, like normal. That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says, Amar Le, the response was, Masnisa Ramis Ale de Rabbi, you're asking a contradiction on Rabbi from a Brisa? Rabbi Tanahu Upalik. Rabbi is a Tana. Rabbi has the authority to argue on a Brisa. He is a Tana from the time of the Mishnah, and the Brisa is from the time of the Mishnah. They both have equal authority. He can argue on the Mishnah. So there's a contradiction, fine, but he's allowed to argue. Mara asks, My Havi Allah. So what's the conclusion? At the end of the day, we seem to have a debate here, a dispute, whether in a place like Nineveh you could say V'sein Tal Matar in the Bracha Barech Aleinu even in the summer and ask for rain. So is that so? Or should one say in Shomei Tefillah, like Rabbi said? So the Gemara says, Rav Nachman Amar B'Birkas Hashanim. Rav Nachman said, you could say in Birkas Hashanim, Barech Aleinu, you could say V'sein Tal Matar in the blessing for the year, for produce, right there. Not like Rabbi. Rav Sheshes Amar b'Shomei Tefillah, but Rav Sheshes said, no, you're saying in Shomei Tefillah, like the opinion of Rabbi of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. The Hilchasa, and says the Gemara, the halacha is b'Shomei Tefillah, that it's said in Shomei Tefillah. If there's a need of a specific community to pray for rain, when it's off time, when we're not saying V'sein Tal Matar, it's not the rainy season in Israel, so they could pray for rain, but they should do it in their individual tefillahs in the blessing of Shomei Tefillah, where you have an opportunity to add in prayers for your individual needs. Okay. The Gemara continues now to examine the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said that during the last 7 fasts, one of the things that they did in addition to what they hadn't done previously was they closed the stores. But the Mishnah said that, again, the fasts were all on either Mondays or Thursdays. The Mishnah said that on Mondays, matingim chashecha, they would open them a little bit as it got dark, because people needed to buy food to break their fast. They were opening it a little bit. And on Thursdays it was permitted because of the honor of Shabbos. People had to buy food for Shabbos. So that's what the Gemara now quotes. B'sheni matigim chashecha. On Mondays they would open a little bit as it got darker. B'chamishi kol hayom. And on Thursdays the whole day, Shabbos, out of the honor of Shabbos, people had to buy food for Shabbos. Ibaylahu. They asked the following question: Heichi ktani. How is the Mishnah written? What does the Mishnah mean? Bebeis matingim chashecha ubehei kol hayom ibnei kvod Shabbos. Does it mean that on Mondays they would open the doors a little bit as it got dark? And on Thursdays they would open the doors a little bit the whole day? But even on Thursdays they would only open the stores a little bit? Oh, Dilma, or maybe it means B'sheni mating. On Monday they were opening a little bit at dark. Ubechamishi poschin kol hayom kula. And on Thursdays the stores were open all day and open all the way. The doors were completely open. Which one was it? Meaning, if you read the Mishnah, it's not so clear how open were the doors of the stores on Thursday. Were they, like Monday, only open a little bit? Or were they open completely, open to the world, come on in and buy your food for Shabbos? So the Gemara says, Tashma, come and listen. To Tanya, we have a Brisa. The Brisa says, B'sheni matin ad ha'erev. On Mondays, they would open it a little bit until evening, or you're right, around evening time. Uvachamishi, on Thursdays, poschin kol hayom kula b'mei kod Shabbos. They would open it the whole day out of the honor of Shabbos. He uses the word open, it sounds like they were open completely. The Gemara, the Brisa continues, and it says, Hayu lo shnei psachim, if a store had two openings, two doors, poseach echad v'no echad, they would open one and keep the other one closed. I mean, even on Thursdays, they would only open one because that way, the store could be accessed. It wasn't necessary to open up more than one door. Hayalo itztava kineged pischa. If they had a itztava, which is some kind of bench or platform by the entrance, and it blocked the view of the entrance, poseach kedarko ve'eno choshish. Then one was allowed to open it and not be concerned. What are we talking about here? You could open what? So Rashi says the second door. Meaning we're still not opening the door on Mondays, even if there's even if you have the stage sort of blocking the view. We keep the stores closed on Mondays, except for towards nightfall, where they were opening a little bit so people could buy food to break their fasts. But on Thursdays, they kept the stores open so you could buy food for Shabbos. However, if you had two doors, just open one. You don't need to open the other. One is enough. But if the second one was blocked by some kind of platform and you couldn't really see that it was open, then they could open that too. But I guess the idea was they didn't want to send this message, stores are open, it's a normal day. But people have to get in, and people have to know that the store is open to buy food for Shabbos. They could open one, not the other, but if you couldn't see the other one, then it was fine to open the other one. Then the Gemara quotes the next part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Avru elu v'lo nanu. If these passed, the last 7 passed, and they weren't answered, so at this point they don't enact any more fasts. However, we do limit our practices of certain business practice and joy, practice of joy. So specifically, it said in the Mishnah a number of things. It said, and we're going to examine them one by one. It said, Mimatim mimaso matan, they did less business. Bebinyan uvenatia, building and planting. The erusin of nisuin, betrothals and marriages. Uveshe'ela shalom ein adam chavero, and in greeting people and asking how they're doing. So the Gemara now examines them. It says, if these 7 fasts passed, they still weren't answered, it still didn't rain, so then people would limit their business practices, and they would not build and plant. The Gemara explains, Tana, we have a brisa that explains, Bibinyan, what do we mean they wouldn't build? Binyan shel simcha. We mean you can't build a house of joy, or a building, you can't do buildings of joy, meaning if you need a place to live, you could build yourself a house. However, specifically Rashi says it refers to the Gemara is going to say actually what it is. So you're not allowed to build a binyan shel simcha, a building of joy, and a natiyah, what is that you can't plant? A natiyah shel simcha, you can't do a planting of joy. But a planting that's necessary, you could do. You need food, you could plant for food. What is an example of, ask the Gemara, Ezehu binyan shel simcha, what is a building of joy? Zehabone beis chasnos livno. It's to build a wedding house for one's child. It seems there was a practice to build a chuppah for a child getting married, and perhaps even that would be the place, it was like a house that they would live in, so that you're not supposed to build during this period where it's not raining and you're not fasting, but you're limiting your practices of joy. And ezohi netiyah shel simcha, what is a planting of joy that you should refrain from? Zehanotea avuvranki shel malachim. It's the planting avuvranki of kings. What is an avuvranki shel kings? So Rashi offers two possibilities. He says, number one, there was a custom that when a child of a king was born, they would plant a tree in his name, and when he became king, they would use the wood from that tree to build his throne. So you can't plant that tree, the tree of a prince, during this time. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is, that Rashi offers, is it's a tree that leans over the ground, and it's a great place to take a nice walking. It's very shady, and apparently kings had it. That's why it's called an avoranki shel malachim. It's for kings. But seemingly right, and nobody would be able to plant such a thing. And in general, the idea is, right, plants that are for joy, for shade, for just enjoying, that's the type of thing that one should limit. Again, these halachos are most relevant to us during the 9 days, when they also apply during the 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av. So also we don't do binyan shel simcha, we don't do buildings of joy, and that can include like painting or unnecessary renovations that are just, for the sake of it, just to upgrade. That we wouldn't do, and we also wouldn't involve ourselves in planting and gardening that's just for joy. The Gemara continues, it says, Uv'she'ela shalom, they wouldn't ask shalom, hi, how are you? Peace unto you. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Chaverim in the Gemara, chaverim means like friends, but in the Gemara it usually means like Talmidei Chacham, the educated. So, the Torah educated, Ein she'ela shalom b'neihem. They wouldn't greet each other during this time. It's a sad time, we don't greet each other. Amei ha'aretz shesha'alein, if an am ha'aretz, someone who doesn't know, he's not knowledgeable, he asks how you're doing. Machzirin lahem, we answer them, we don't ignore them, that would be rude. But we answer them b'safa rafa, in a soft voice, with a koved roshim, with a heavy head. So I guess we kind of let them know that it's a sad time right now. And they, the people, would wrap themselves and sit like mourners, ukiminudin, and like those who are excommunicated, kivnei adam hanizufin lamakom, like people who are embarrassed before God, until God shows them mercy. So during this time, it's not raining, there's a drought, it must be because of our sins. We are contemplative, we are sad that we are undeserving, and so we sit somewhat like mourners as a result of this. Amar Rabbi Lazar said, Ein adam chashav rashai lipol al panav, elaim king nana. A chashav person, someone of stature, is not allowed to fall on his face in prayer, elaim king nana, unless he knows that he will be answered. How one knows that he'll be answered? I'm not sure. I guess if you know, you know. Ki Yoshua ben Nun, we find that by Yoshua ben Nun that he did it. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vayomer Hashem el Yoshua, Hashem said to Yoshua, Kum lach, get up, lama ze'ata nofel al panecha, why have you fallen on your face? So Yoshua fell on his face because he knew that he could. God tells him, get up, but why are you falling on your face? But he could do it because he knew he would be answered. And he was. God spoke to him. God answered him. But if you don't know that you're going to be answered, then you shouldn't. Why not? So Rashi explains, because because it's kind of embarrassing. It's to go all out so far in prayer and to lay yourself out on your face in front of other people and then to not be answered. So people will mock you for that. So someone of stature shouldn't, lay it all out in a public fashion unless he knows that he's going to be answered. V'amar Rabbi Lazar, and Rabbi Lazar said a similar thing. Ein adam chashuv rashai lachgor sak elam kenane. A person of stature is not allowed to gird himself in sackcloth, in mourning clothes, in the state of prayer, elam kenane, unless he knows he's going to be answered. Same idea, he's putting it all on the line, and if he's not answered, it's going to be somewhat embarrassing. Ki Yehoram ben Achav, like we have by Yehoram ben Achav, who was a king of Israel. He wasn't, he was actually not too righteous, but he did one thing good, which was this, She'emar, the pasuk says, Vayhi kishmo hamelech es divrei ha'isha, and it was when the king heard the words of the woman, there was a great famine in his time, and when he heard about it, so Vayikras begadav, he tore his clothes, v'hu over al hachoma, and he walked along the wall, vayar ha'am, and the nation saw, v'hinei hasak al besaron, he was wearing sackcloth, v'gomer, and so on, and indeed he was answered because the famine came to an end. So Yehoram had this one good deed, and it could be here more, but this was, even though he was a Rasha, but he did this one thing. He mourned, and tore his clothes and wore sackcloth when there was a famine going on. And the Gemara again says, unless you can be confident that you'll be answered, then you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't lay it all out like that. And again, I can't really tell you how exactly you know, but I guess these people knew. The Gemara continues. Ve'amar Rabbi Lazar said, Lo hakol b'kriya v'lo hakol b'nefila. Not everyone is it right for them to do kriya, to tear their clothes in a time of challenge and prayer? V'lo hakol b'nefila. Not everyone should fall on their face. Some people, and this is even among tzaddikim, for some people it's right that they should fall on their face in prayer. For some people it's right to tear their clothes. How does he know this? Because he says Moshe v'Aaron b'nefilo. You find Moshe and Aaron, they took the approach of falling on their face. Yehoshua v'Kalev b'kriya, but Yehoshua and Kalev took the approach of tearing their clothes, rending their garments. Where do we see this? Because Moshe, this is talking about when the Meraglim came back, when the spies came back from Israel and gave a bad report. So it says Moshe v'Aaron b'nefilo. Moshe and Aaron fell on their face. The pasuk says, Vayipol Moshe ve'Aaron al paneim, and Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces. That was their response to this terrible scenario. They fell on their faces in prayer. Yehoshua ve'Kalev b'kriya, but Yehoshua and Kalev, their response was to rend their garments. T'chsev, the pasuk says, V'Yehoshua ben Nun ve'Kalev ben Yefuna karu bigdehem. The very next verse says, and Yehoshua and Kalev tore their clothes. So you see that the response of Moshe and Aaron was to fall on their face. The response of Kalev and Yehoshua was to rend their garments. Different people have different responses, and perhaps it's a question of stature, depending on one's stature. So the Gemara says that you don't necessarily have a proof from here. Maskefla Reb Zera asked a question on this proof. He said, V'teimer Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, some say it was Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani who asked, he said, Ihava ksiv Yehoshua kidika amart. If the verse had said Yehoshua without a vav before it and Yehoshua, then you have a good proof. Hashadav ksiv Yehoshua, but it says and Yehoshua, hava ha'avid, he says Yehoshua did both things. You don't see that they did different. Yehoshua did more maybe, but he did not fall on his face, meaning the verse says, and Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces, and Yehoshua and Kalev tore their clothes. So says this Reb Zera, or Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, says that and Yehoshua is going back and forth, meaning it's going back And Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces, and Yoshua. And Yoshua and Kalev tore their clothes. So Yoshua, and maybe also Kalev, did both. Yoshua and Kalev. You can go back on the previous verse and on the next verse. You don't see that Yoshua was not fit to fall on his face. You don't see that it depends on stature. Ve'amar Rebbe Lazar. And Rebbe Lazar said, Lo hakol bekima, velo hakol bishtachavaya. Not everyone is it right for them to stand up, and not everyone is it right for them to prostrate themselves. Different people are to take different approaches when approaching God. Melachim bekima, kings are to stand before God. I guess like stand straight, that's how they should approach God. Visarim bishtachavaya, and officers who are lower should approach God through prostration, through bowing. Where do we see this? Melachim bekima dechsev. We see that kings should stand because the verse says, it says in Yeshaya, it says, Ko amar Hashem, go el Yisrael. So says Hashem, the God of Israel, Kedosho, His Holy One. Livzo nefesh, to the disdained one. Limitayiv guy, to the nation that is abomination. Le'evan moshelim, to the servant of rulers, who's fallen under the service of rulers. What does he say to them? Melachim yiru v'kamu. Melachim, kings, have fear and stand. So you see that God says, kings, you stand before me. That's how you should approach me. V'sarim b'shtachavayim, officers should approach God through bowing, because the same verse continues, says, Sarim b'shtachavu, officers should bow. This is how you should approach God. Kings should stand, and officers should bow. That's what Rebbe Lazar said, that there's different approaches for different people. Maskifla Reb Zera v'tema Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani. Again, along comes Reb Zera, and some say it was Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, and asks a similar type of question as before. He says, Ihavaksiv v'sarim yishtachavu kidikamart. Had it said, and officers bow, then indeed, like you said. But hashta d'chsiv sarim b'yishtachavu havaha avod. But now that it says officers and bowing, so it's telling you that they should do both. Meaning, some changes. The idea is, what it says in the pasuk is, it says melachim yiru v'kamu, sarim v'yishtachavu. It says kings be fearful and stand, officers and bow. So had it said officers bow, he says, that would have, you're right, it would have been that kings stand and officers bow. Kings be fear and stand, officers bow. But it says officers and bow, implying officers do the first thing but also bow. So says Reb Zera, and says Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, you don't see necessarily that these different people of different statures are to take different approaches in approaching God, because it seems it's telling the sarim, the officers, also to stand and also prostrate. They're to do both. Amar Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak, Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak said, Afani Omer. I also said something about different people having different stature and different approach. Lo hakol la'orav lo hakol l'simcha. What I said was, not everyone will have light, and not everyone will have joy. Tzadikim la'ora, the righteous tzadikim will have light. The yesharim l'simcha, and the straight will have simcha, will have joy. Tzadikim la'ora dichsiv. How do we know that tzadikim will have light? Because it says or zarua la tzadik. There's light planted for tzadikim, for the righteous. And how do I know yesharim simcha? How do I know that the straight have simcha, will have joy? Dichsiv uliyishrei leiv simcha. The end of that verse says, and to the straight of heart there will be simcha, there will be joy. So it says or zarua la tzadik. There's light planted for the tzadik. Uli Yishrei Lev Simcha, and for the straight of heart, there's Simcha. So the tzaddik gets or, gets light, and the straight get Simcha, get joy. Now, what's the difference between a tzaddik and a yashar, or what's the difference between joy, between light and joy? So Rashi tells us that Yesharim are adifim mitzadikim. Yesharim is a higher level. The straight are a higher level than tzaddik. So I saw an explanation that a tzaddik is someone who does mitzvos, but they're not necessarily as straight as a yashar in terms of not doing averos, not doing sins, and being totally purified. And so for such a person, the reward is not so clear to them. It's aura, it's light, it's something and it's zarua, it's planted for them. They have this sense that there's light planted for them at the end of at the end of time, this ultimate reward from Hashem. But the Yishrei Lev have simcha. The Yishrei Lev, those who are straight and have really purified themselves and have come to such a clarity of God that the reward, they're already feeling the reward. It's simcha. It's not just a light, something that they're going to receive, but it's already simcha, it's already joy for them, because they have a clearer sense of God and the reward for doing His mitzvos. Hadron Allah Me'e Masai. We will return to you, chapter Me'e Masai. Mazel Tov on completing the first parak, the first chapter of Maseches Taanis.